Welcome back. We're talking about autism, one of the neurodevelopmental disorders, and we're going to delve a little bit deeper into some of the things that cause autism and how we can address it. And one of the goals that we have is that the problem with Nigeria is that we don't have enough. One of the problems, one of the many problems, we don't have enough therapists, we don't have enough doctors to go around. So one of our goals is to see what is safe and what can be used remotely. And that's, again, you need to be able to know what to do and how to avail yourself of solutions. Even if you're in Kafanchan, Kafanchan is not far, very far away from here. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, the most removed parts of Nigeria. What can be done to take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of your child's health? In this case, if your child has autism, what can be done? And so what we mentioned in the last segment was that the brain of the child is literally under siege. There are all kinds of things that are bombarding his brain. As a matter of fact, when I look at these conditions, I look at these children, I'm amazed at how well they are behaving when you consider all what they're having to face on a daily basis. So, like I said in the last segment, we started looking at heavy metals. We know that there's some relationship between the brain of children with autism and heavy metal toxicity. As a matter of fact, some research that they've done, they show that in areas where there's heavy mining activity, where they are trying to drill for metals in the ground, for instance, they find out that in those areas you find higher levels, even in Nigeria as well as in the US and other parts of the world, that in those areas you find higher incidences of children being born with autism-like conditions. So kids that may not be able to speak, may have deformities, they may not be able to function like they should. And so we began to address heavy metals, and we got results to some degree. But as you can see, heavy metals are just one part of the equation. There are several other things. And so after failing and after using and working on it for quite a while and not really getting the results, I began to travel. I went to the US, went to conferences. I went to see, okay, what is the solution? I have to say that many of the conferences, I really didn't find the answers. For even the biggest conferences where they were doing research, and I was very, very disappointed. But again, the answers began to come from some unexpected sources, and began to piece these things together into a jigsaw puzzle and really say, okay, what works and what doesn't work. General Patton, one of the great soldiers of World War II, his 3 cardinal rules for warfare were speed, simplicity, and boldness. So speed, simplicity, and boldness. So you can imagine why he had to be bold, because they were attacking the Germans and they were trying to win. He's one of the few people in history who never lost a battle. Anyway, so I want to lift a page from his book, and I want to say that when it comes to autism, and when it comes to any disease for that matter, our goal and our watchwords in the Brain and Body Foundation are speed, simplicity, and safety. Because we're dealing with kids. And anyway, it doesn't matter who you're dealing with. You have to be safe. You have to use a safe mode. So speed, simplicity, and safety. Speed, because we want to get the answers quickly. If it's not working fast enough, we change. And so in this regard, when we saw that we were not getting the answers fast enough, we began to, like I said, we began to look for other solutions. One of the key things that have given us the most results has been the discovery, well, not our discovery, but discovery before by other people, that a lot of what goes on in the brain is affected by what goes on in the guts. And you can see these red lines showing the influence. And especially what goes on in the gut. So this is a diagram, if you haven't noticed, this is a diagram of the stomach and the digestive system. So what we found out was that children with autism, and maybe some of you parents have noticed this, that they have digestive issues. Not mentioned in the top 3 signs of children with autism, but most children with autism have some degree of constipation and, in other cases, diarrhea, or sometimes a combination. So they have those symptoms going on. So what was causing those things? What we now know is that there are microorganisms in the gut that influence to a very large extent what goes on in the brain. And this is not just about children now, but adults as well. Your moods, your appetite, your food preferences, even sex can be influenced by what's going on in the gut. I know that sounds hard to believe, but it's very, 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 very true. Again, if you do some research on your own, you will find that out. So it's not just about the bacteria. We have viruses. As a matter of fact, some people in the US, some researchers focus on treating viruses alone. Other people focus on treating yeast infections alone. Infections, so like candidiasis. All of these, in many cases, are at work in the guts. And so we see that in children, that they seem to have a preponderance, an excess of these bad, what we call bad bugs. And they are influencing what is going on in the brain. And so if I were to ask you, what would be your approach to this? I know you're not a doctor, but what would be your approach? Having established the fact that the behavior of your child is driven by what's going on in his belly or her belly, what would be your approach? We found out that the best way, the best start was to find a way to safely, there's our word again, safely, push out or remove the bad stuff so the child eventually excretes that. That was what we now found out. So for the first 1 or 2 months, the goal is to slowly remove that out, and there's a safe way to do it. Of course, we can't share that on TV because it's a specific way to do it. But you can find out from your doctors and from other physicians in the field. You can slowly remove that. Once that is done, and ideally, you should have 85% good bacteria. Everybody has bacteria, so there are some good bacteria that are helpful. There are some bad bacteria that are obviously not healthy. The goal is to reestablish this right ratio. So 85 good, 15% bad. If you were to compare a child with autism's guts to a normal, what is known as a normal typical child's belly, you will find a clear-cut difference. You'll see that one is clearly not healthy and the other one is more healthy. So the goal is to try and push the healthy child's guts, the child with autism's gut health, and make it as close or approximate the normal child's gut as much as possible. This is really the first step and the most beneficial step to setting the child on the right path towards health and normal function. In the next segment, we're going to continue with this and give you a few more tips and instructions. We'll be right back.